Now, 15 years EastEnders have been running. I think I've watched every single episode, and this is how it all started. In the spring of 1983, producer Julia Smith and script editor Tony Holland were given the task of creating a popular bi-weekly serial for the BBC. After months of development, including one plan to base it at a caravan park, they came up with the idea of a drama based on life in the East End of London.
Hey, Pops! What are you doing here? I'll come get me dinner money.
The original cast of just 23 actors was centred around three East End families: the Watts, the Beales and the Fowlers. Even today, many of the storylines can be traced back to the original trials and tribulations of these families. Julia Smith was infamous for her attention to detail and told agents that only genuine EastEnders need apply. But it was the 80s, and in the end she relented and decided that even Albert Square needed some yuppies.
We haven't even got £100.
I have.
Oh, thank you, that's right. Throw poverty in my face.
Oh, look, Debs, it's only money.
Simon May, a leading television composer, was charged with the task of coming up with a theme tune that would get people in from the garden or the kitchen.
I could see from Tony's face that I was getting absolutely nowhere, so I came back the next day and I knew that it had to be special.
The doofs, now a central part of the cliffhangers, were thought of just before the show went on air. Originally, the producers wanted the show to be based in a real part of London. Facet Square in Hackney was chosen, but it soon became clear that the traffic, the onlookers and an old war hospital would prove too much for a rigorous shooting schedule. So designer Keith Harris created the perfect replica of the East End of London in Elstree.
The first time I realised how important that programme was when we went out on the lot and saw Albert Square. And I suddenly realised that they were spending an awful lot of money. Then it fell into place about the detail, about dress, why Julia was wanting everything absolutely right.
I've been watching Rachel.
With the paint barely dry, the first episode of EastEnders was transmitted on Tuesday the 19th of February 1985.
Robbed and murdered in your own bed.
He weren't robbed as far as we know. He ain't been murdered and he weren't in his own bed. Apart from that, you're spot on as usual, Ethel.
I think they came up with this brilliant idea, which is obviously now after, 15 years, is everyone's talking point. What made EastEnders successful? It's down to two people. It's Julia Smith and Tony Holland.
And that was how it all started. And just to tell you that Hannah, the new nanny for Ian Beale, is the 217th cast member to join EastEnders.